sister.
It's beautiful out here right now.
It is. It's perfect.
Mina did some glamour shots earlier. We're going to go do something together later.
She did.
Absolutely beautiful.
Shout out, Phil.
By the way, Mina had the tissue to the eye. She's got some sniffles. She's not actually crying.
My girl got them allergies. I got her, though.
Just waiting for the Nick Eamon-Warry injury update.
We're getting to that. But first, we're going to go to Jeff Darlington, and then we will ask him everything we need to know about Nick Eamon-Warry. What is the latest there, Jeff, on the ankle injury for such a key defender for this Seahawks defense?
Well, there is no need to cry, Mina. I've got great news for you. Nick Eamon-Warry is going to be okay. Mike McDonald actually said in his press conference that Eamon-Warry actually should play in Sunday's game. They are fully expecting him to play in that game. He does anticipate being overcautious in the coming days in practice after Eamon-Warry did roll his ankle in practice. He had to be helped off the practice field. It was a scary moment for the Seahawks, but Eamon-Warry did tell me that he got imaging on that ankle and that it did not reveal anything of a high ankle sprain. So very good news there. We should point out that Eamon-Warry actually did miss 3 games earlier this season after suffering a high ankle sprain in week 1. He said it is the same ankle, but it is not nearly as bad. Also, context into how good of a player he is. This is the kind of guy that has been compared to Kyle Hamilton, who Mike McDonald coached in Baltimore. He is used all over the field. So even though he is a rookie, he is incredibly important to this Ravens team. So great news there. One last update for you. Sam Darnold was limited in practice with an oblique issue, but again, also being cautious. He is full go and will start in Sunday's game, Laura.
You see Darnold there with Drew Lock as well as Jalen Milroe on the other side. Thanks to Jeff Darlington, the latest on the Seahawks throughout the week. And Jeff mentioned the importance of Eamon-Warry. Let's go into that a little bit in more detail. During the regular season, no team played a cover 2 defense more often than the Seahawks. And Drake May struggled against a cover 2, throwing 2 touchdowns against 3 picks and ranking 21st in QBR against cover 2. He was sacked on nearly 10% of dropbacks, by the way, when opponents play cover 2. So, Mina, before we get into the specifics of the injury and this defense and all of that, even though it does sound like, of course, that Eamon-Warry is going to play, they may be cautious. Just how important is he to what Seattle wants to do?
I think he's really important because of what you saw there, which is the split safety structure. So first of all, Jeff hit on it, the versatility. He plays in the box. He's in the slot. He's a blitzer. I talked to Fred. He mentioned Kyle Hamilton as a comp. I talked to Fred Warner earlier, and he gave me 2 comps. Derwin James and Avatar, like an Avatar. So I thought that was a good comp for Eamon-Warry. But I would say this, his run defense is, I think, where he would be missed the most because his presence is what allows Seattle to defend the run at such a high level from those split safety structures without putting an extra linebacker. He is basically a hybrid DB linebacker, but his presence on the field is what allows them to make it feel like you have so many bodies in coverage, but you're still stout against the run. So I think it would be massive for Seattle if he doesn't play. Sounds like he's going to, though.
Yeah, when Seattle plays their cover 2, I think a couple things that stand out from tape of why they're good at it. Number one, they're very physical at the corner position on the outside, so the timing is often disrupted. 2, the safeties do a great job of understanding route concepts, playing their deep half, of playing with vision underneath. I think also those second-level defenders are a big-time thing. They'll change their fronts. Like, look how wide those defensive tackles are. So you create a little bit of chaos from a rush perspective, but it's tied to the coverage with 7 people in coverage. So Witherspoon's playing your nickel. Eamon-Warry's playing the backside, quote, linebacker position. There's 6 DBs on the field. And the big thing is that's that vision that I'm talking about with those safeties who have the deep half. But those underneath defenders, they're not spot dropping often. They're still playing that cover 2 zone while also having a feel for route concepts. And so, like we often talk about on the show, like match. It's not match, and it's not like true zone to me, in my opinion. Like, I think they have a good understanding of this is my area, but this is the route you're trying to run. And Eamon-Warry kind of playing that linebacker role there is a massive deal on early downs.
Well, I also think we have to be clear with people that when we talk about 2 high safety defenses, it isn't always just cover 2, right? It's quarter halves. It's poach, right? You saw poach there where the backside safety was pushing to number 3 because it was a 3-by-1 formation and you had the corner locked on the backside. And so I believe that's what Drake May is going to have to deal with more so, not just recognizing that it's split safety, but what sort of split safety defense is it, right? Which side is playing what? How will the underneath defenders be matching? And I believe that's where he struggled, because go back to the second half of the second Bills game, and now there was a lot of pressure 100%. In that game, but he always had to figure it out after the football was snapped. And to me, as many times as the Seattle Seahawks can make Drake May do that, figure out what the defense is, the better chance they have of putting pressure on it.
Yeah, I had to go all the way back to college days when I was a part of drops, and teams would try to flood areas when we were in cover 2, try to give you a levels concept to make that in-between backer in the middle of the field determine if I'm coming down or staying high. And I remember feeling like I'm in a terrible situation if they get these backs underneath and I got to tackle guys in open space. So I look at guys with Travion Henderson. You think about getting even just if you get a slot area in a slot player in that area with Hunter Henry as well, you're making them make a determination. But to RC's point, I think that's going to be the most critical thing. What are they in? Because when you find cover 2, there's always areas to attack.
Right. What version?
Yeah, what version of it? If the seam is open and the corner is staying low, taking the flat, you have to be accurate and on time to be able to put that there before the safety get there. And the great ones put it there on wide receiver so they can make a move on the safety and maybe get some runs after catch. I'll be interested to see how Josh McDaniels attack this, but I think it'll be some concept of levels against Seattle just to make them determine how do they want to come up and play it. And that's why the tackling comes so important for this team, and Warray especially.
The Rams have had success against Seattle with what you're describing. I loved your point about the backs. Our excellent researcher Luke mentioned to me he thought Seattle should consider, or pardon me, New England should consider putting both of their backs on the field a decent amount, which of course harkens back to the last Super Bowl when these teams played. And you remember New England lived in pony personnel with Sony Michel and Blunt. But for Seattle, often they'll mug up their linebackers and then they pop out. So there are opportunities that creates spatially, because if you have one of those running backs as a pass catching option, usually there is grass. Stevenson is also a very good pass protector, so he can stay in and handle a blitzer if it comes to that.
And I would say, like, from the pass game perspective, we talked about this. The pass game that had the most success was the Rams, right? Matthew is probably one of the best throwers of in between the middle of the field, but also I'm throwing here and looking there. So, like, moving guys. So Drake May's going to have a great game with Cummins. Like, Witherspoon's, 6'1"?
Yeah.
No, Witherspoon's 5'11".
So, okay, Eamon Warrior's
the roster says 6'1".
He plays like he's 6'1".
The other two are 6'3" and 6'4".
So, like, just their length of getting the ball over those defenders, but trying to move them in between, that's going to be the biggest challenge.
It's your point about post-snap. So many of the shots Matthew hit where they would present to two high structure and then rotate to one, he would identify that, find the one-on-one. Can Drake May do the same when Seattle does that?
And that's what's important, too. When we talked about the complementary pieces the New England Patriots have in their skill room, they don't have Puka Nacua. They don't have a route runner like Devontae Adams. And that was how we saw the Rams attack them. Someone is going to have to be strong in between the numbers. And that's why I think Hunter Henry can be a bigger part of this game, along with Stephon Diggs. And Stephon Diggs has to win early with quickness against this defense.
That Hunter Henry connection with Drake May is very strong. They're best friends on the team. They know each other really well. They feel really comfortable with each other. Huge. By the way, the ESPN roster says Dan's 6'9", RC is like 6'3", Mina's 6 foot, and you're 6'8", and I'm 6'2".
I will say this, though. Mina and Laura
we're kind of tall.
Much taller than they seem on
Can you clip
TV.
that off,
Clip
please?
that off
And I'm more
send it to
athletic than
Dan.
I've seen, too.
And Dan is just as athletic as he looked when he ran out of the back of the end zone.
Boom! On that note, we're going to break. NFL Live just getting started here on this Thursday. Sorry, Dan. We're not that sorry, though. The trenches heating up. Both staff, what do we need to know?
The Eagles offensive line coach, legendary offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland, decided that he was stepping away from the game, retiring from football yesterday, a move that sent shockwaves through the city of Philadelphia. Here's somebody that had a legendary run since taking over as the Eagles offensive line coach under Chip Kelly in 2013. He always had this offensive line performing at a top level, but over the course of the last year, This organization had been through a number of changes. I don't think that they listened to him on some of the changes that they made with their offensive coordinators. I don't think they heard his voice as much as he would like last year.
Wow.
And when he thought about it, ultimately, in the end, he decided to step away from the sport, leaving a gaping hole. So the Eagles bring in a new offensive coordinator in Sean Mangan. They bring in the Buccaneers offensive coordinator. Josh Grizzard is the pass game coordinator. But they are now without Jeff Stoutland, who's been a fixture in Philadelphia and one of the reasons that this offense has performed at such a high level over time.
You got to think, too, Swag, they're thinking, okay, well, at least we have Stoutland there, so whoever else comes as part of this offensive staff, they'll be able to rely on him. What changes now without somebody like Stoutland?
Look, that's why you're the best at what you do. That's the perfect question, because more than the X's and O's in development, and I'll get into that, it's the attitude and the mentality that Jeff Stoutland brought, not just for the offensive line. That permeated throughout the whole team. If you hear Jason Kelce talk about his admiration for Jeff Stoutland and what he did for his career more so than anybody, you know that there was a part of the DNA that he brought to the Philadelphia Eagles. This, to your point, Schefter, this is a gaping hole for this football team from a mentality standpoint. Now, to the football side, Joey Mailata was a rugby player that turned into an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler under his watch. Jason Kelce, undersized center that came in and is going to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. You think about all of the guys that he's had throughout this tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles. Miles Sanders, 1,000-yard rusher. Saquon Barkley, 2,000 yards rushing behind this offensive line. So he had more to do with the success of this offense than people probably would give him credit for, because they say, oh, he's just an O-line coach. I was in the NFL locker room. Dan was in the NFL locker room. RC in the NFL locker room. Offensive line coaches set the tone. They set the tone for your offense. That's just the way it goes, and Stoutland was one of the best at doing it.
And I think of some of the great legendary offensive line coaches who are out there. When they leave, their organizations are not quite the same. Alex Gibbs, Hudson Houck, Bill Callahan, Jeff Stoutland. There are some unbelievable offensive line coaches. Yes. And as difficult as it is to find an offensive coordinator, it may be even harder to find a great offensive line coach.
Lastly, I'll speak on Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan was in Dallas when I was there as an offensive line coach. The remnants of his coaching still exist in Dallas.
Man.
They didn't deviate too far away from what he did. So these guys are majorly important, man.
Yep. Yeah, under Stoutland, 7 different Eagles offensive linemen have combined to make 26 Pro Bowls. That has to do with those players, but a lot of it has to do with coaching.
Mekhi Becton revived himself.
Good point. Man, you could keep listing them out. Let's talk about Minnesota, you guys. J.J. McCarthy struggled in an injury-riddled first year as the starter, and they watched Sam Darnold make it to the Super Bowl with Seattle. Justin Jefferson talked about what's next for the Vikings at quarterback.
I have faith in anybody that's out there throwing me the ball, honestly. It's just all about the preparation that we have, the confidence that he have into going back there in that huddle, no matter what play call is called, but just taking on that role into leading our team into a victory, no matter how that looks, how many touchdowns he throws, how many yards he's throwing for, as long as we coming out that game with a victory, that's all that matters.
Man, Jettas has handled all of this so well. But let's go down to Peter Schrager, who's joining the show now with Dan. Peter, can the Vikings continue on with J.J. McCarthy as their starting quarterback?
Let's first take a moment for the round of applause I got. Thank you, fans. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Honestly, it's the cardinal sin of what happened with Kwesi, the old GM. How the handling of the quarterback room went down. And Sam Darnold not only wasn't franchised or re-signed, but they also let Daniel Jones walk out the building. So the pressure was on J.J. McCarthy all season. Truth of the matter is this. Next year, you still have Kevin O'Connell. You still have Wes Phillips. You still have Josh McCown. And you've got a quarterback in J.J. McCarthy who finished the season really strong. He's 6-4 as a starter, and if he's healthy, that gives him a shot to win. Now, last year it was Carson Wentz and it was Max Brosmer for too many games in a very loaded division. I believe that coaching staff knows their eggs are in this basket, and they're going to ride with J.J. McCarthy, and it's on him now to say, hey, year 3, it's going to be my year.
I think Minnesota needs to bring in a starting quarterback. Okay?
Besides J.J.
Yes, so one, just because of the health issues. I mean, JJ has missed so many games over the last 2 years that at some point you do need to have at least that very good plan one, whatever we want to call it, 1A, 1B. And then 2, when JJ's played, and I've loved JJ and supported him coming out of school, the performance hasn't been what you would hope it to be. So from a play perspective and then a health perspective, I think Minnesota has to think about, well, sure, you want to call it competition, whatever it is. There's got to be a starting quarterback that gets brought in, at least caliber-wise. And the other part is this. I'm not wasting another year of Justin Jefferson. Nope. Like, I'm not going through another year with Justin Jefferson.
And Jordan Addison.
And Addison getting 20 yards a game. And so the number one target for me for Minnesota would be Mac Jones. I understand it's got to be a trade, but when Mac Jones plays in the style of play, this is his performance last year with San Francisco. Brock Purdy obviously was elevated after that, but I just think for Minnesota, if there was one guy that I would bring in, it would be Mac Jones.
This was a team that had 14 regular season wins just last year, missing the playoffs this year.
And it can happen again. So you can't just roll the dice and go, okay, we're all in on this guy, because what happens if he gets healthy again? What happens if the performance doesn't get to where some people thought it should?
Guys, I would love to see Kevin O'Connell coaching Mac Jones. Also, Josh McCown as a quarterback's coach. Feels like a really Patriots team has been on with Drake May as we welcome in Sal Palantonio, who's been covering the Patriots all week long. And Drake May says his injured shoulder feels great. So what are any concerns or focuses that the Patriots have for their young QB, Sal?
You know, and Laura, the quote of the week was from Drake May earlier today when he said, I ain't lying to you guys when I say my shoulder is great. I feel great. And now going into Super Bowl 60, what do they have to do for Drake May? They got to protect Drake May and protect the football. Listen to this.
I mean, they do a great job of playing fast. They swarm to the football. We got to protect it when we're running, and obviously they play some zone coverage, and they got eyes on the quarterback. Some tip balls. Got to make sure I'm being really accurate with the football, and obviously the rush is we got good players up front, so got to be careful in the pocket.
There's this identity that they play with, that they believe in, and they put on tape. They're not afraid to come and attack the football, and so they've done that really well this year.
I would say that they probably have the best coordinated rush games that I've seen since I've been in this league, which has been a long time. So it's a credit to them. They do a good job, and it's a great challenge for us.
Yeah, that was offensive line coach Doug Marrone, and he has been around a long time. For him to say that about the Seahawks defense is something. And I talked one-on-one with Mike Vrabel. It's a Sunday conversation on Countdown coming up on Sunday, but a little snippet of it was, I said, do you have to coach up Drake May on turnovers and taking care of the football, or does he understand that? Is it a given now? And he said, oh no, this is a coaching point that will go right up to game time. We want him to be aggressive but not reckless with the football. And I got to tell you, this is my 11th time I've covered Bob Kraft's New England Patriots in the Super Bowl, all 11 times. You see these buses behind me. He pulls out all the stops. They got 5 luxury buses to pick up the players, take them over to Stanford University momentarily for practice on Thursday. They do it right here for the New England Patriots, I got to tell you.
All class with the Kraft family, and I love that you talked about the conversation coming your way on Countdown on Sunday, 4-hour NFL Countdown show. That's going to be a lot of fun getting you ready for the game. Seattle's defense dominant this season, leading the NFL in scoring efficiency and third down conversion percentage, including the postseason. This is what Drake May's up against. The Patriots D was no slouch either, though, second in scoring and third in efficiency. But they were even better when Christian Gonzalez and Milton Williams played, allowing just 14.5 points per game, 7 fewer when either was out. Just talking about how impactful those players are. Swagoo, this is your part of the show.
Come on.
All right? We're talking about the D-lines on both sides. We saved it for the best part, the halfway through the show. It's the highest rated mark of the show for you. Okay, start us off with what Sam Darnold can expect to see from the Patriots line.
Well, one, this defensive line, to their credit, when they do 4-man rush, they've been generating a lot of pressure, a lot of issues for quarterbacks, but it's also what they do in the blitz game as well that helps their D-line be free hitters or even linebackers. If you look at this Denver game, you're getting picks on the interior. This is by design because the pressure in the center of the pocket, to me, is the most important thing when you're playing against Sam Darnold. This leads to an incomplete pass, but I want to show it from this angle to show you how much is going on for this offensive line to try to sift through while guys are still getting free to the quarterback. So as much as we talk about, like, there's been a resurgence for Kayvon Chason. Like, he's been coached. He's been taught how to be an edge rusher. When he was in Jacksonville, he struggled a little bit with his moves. Milton Williams showed what he's showing now when he was in Philadelphia during the playoff run, which is why they extended the contract. But they don't just lean on games by those 4 guys up front. They add rushers, they simulate pressure, and they create one-on-ones. And I think the best defenses, the best defensive coordinators, and guys, y'all done heard me say this 1,000 times, 3 techniques have to dominate football games in order for you to win them at certain points in the game. So regardless of if they bring pressure or if it is Barmore or Milton Williams on the interior, like they were able to be super effective in the first 2 games, I think they have a real shot at winning this game. Make no mistake about it. As much as we've talked about and lamented about Seattle's defense and their D-line especially, this Patriots defensive line is going to have something to say about how this game goes, and they've been playing at a very high level.
So the hardest part with New England's defensive line offensively is you get it from both sides. Very rarely does one side of New England's D-line do a game or a stunt or whatnot. There's, Marcus, your clip, they're
both sides.
They're twisting on both sides. And so from an offensive perspective, like, you can't necessarily know what side you want to send your help to with it comes a center or a back. And the amount of displacement that it happens from an offensive line perspective is that really different. That's not something that Seattle does. Like, Seattle doesn't often do both sides stunts and twists. So New England does.
To your point, I'm going to be quick, Mina. Okay. To your point, Dan, a lot of times it's, determining protection. A lot of teams like to get centers one-on-one. And that's what the twist on both sides does. So when he's sifting for help, he's sifting to a guy
he's backwards looking
that's running full speed.
Yeah.
Right? And those, like, as good as J.K. was, he'll tell you, I loved when I had guards on guys and I could come over, but you can't with both sides running games.
You talked about 3 techs and their importance in the Super Bowl. You think about performances from your Aaron Donalds, your Chris Joneses in recent years. I do not think New England wins this game unless the next day we're talking about Milton Williams and him taking over. Seattle's biggest weakness on their offensive line is the right guard position, arguably the interior in general. The New England Patriots' greatest strength on their defensive line is Williams. With him, they're 6th league-wide in pass rush win. Without him this year, they're 26. He is a force multiplier and a difference maker, and he has to be dominant in this game.
Yeah, I think when you look at this game, both of these defensive lines will play a huge part in who has the ability to win. But I also think that they attack differently. On Seattle's side, the thing I love the most is the second-level disguise and movement. If you're the front of the New England Patriots, you're going to have to sift through where the simulated pressure is going to come from. Where will the 4 guys be or the 5 guys be? And Marcus mentioned getting centers in one-on-ones. For Seattle, it's about getting everyone in one-on-one. And when you get those players in one-on-ones, it's their individual ability to win. And I think that's going to be evident at the left tackle position for the New England Patriots. For me, it's going to be how many times can I get my best players one-on-one with Will Campbell and that left side of the New England Patriots offensive line. And you can do that by the way you disguise and the people you send.
I want to ask you guys this. So we just talked about New England's defensive line and these constant twists and stunts. Seattle is a little bit like Houston.
They'll do it on one side.
Okay, so what do you think Seattle will do? Will they take their overload and put it away from Will Campbell and try to create the one-on-one there, or put the overload to him?
I think you want to put the overload away from Will Campbell.
And you get a one-on-one.
I don't ever want to signify that you can give this guy help.
But don't you think, okay, then I'm automatically going to send help to Will Campbell with my chips and whatnot?
Not when Leonard Williams is on the opposite side.
About to say.
And that's what's so dangerous about the Seattle stunts, which they run a lot, but to your point, it's usually just on one side. Their defensive tackles are so good. Arguably, Leonard Williams is the best player.
They're the stunters, the tackles.
So if you're an offensive line, line, the communication, we're going to double team him, the looper comes around. So you have to communicate.
Yep.
Your running back, if he's in pass protection, has to also be very aware. And then on top of all that, we're talking about the communication, the challenges of everything they throw at you. They're so deep.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about defensive tackles, waves of pass rushers is another thing you see in Super Bowls. Seattle has, I would say, they don't have a superstar, but they got stars. I think Leonard Williams is a superstar.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy II on the inside. On the outside, Lawrence has been a revelation. Nwosu, Mafe, Hall. Fourth quarter, they're not going to be tired because of that. And to me, that gives them a big advantage in this game.
That's really interesting. And by the way, the Patriots have defeated 3 of the top 5 total defenses from the regular season so far this postseason. But I think we can all agree they haven't seen something exactly like what they'll see from Seattle. Maybe Houston, the closest thing strength-wise of what
schematically, Houston was so good and so talented, they never tried to trick you.
They're very
Seattle will
put
put you in positions where communication and adjustment is important.
Yeah, I mean, Drake May even said that before that game. He's like, we know what they're going to do. Now it's a matter of trying to deal with it. All right, we continue on here with some DraftKings Sportsbook, and we are going to go to Peter for that. Our big game prop presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Today we're looking at Super Bowl MVP odds. Peter, who are you taking for the Super Bowl MVP?
I'm going way off the board here. Mina Kimes just did an entire bit on the Seahawks pass rushers, and that is where I'm going for your Super Bowl MVP. Anybody else can tell you Sam Darnold or Jackson Smith and Jigba or Drake May. At 90-1 odds on DraftKings is DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence led this team in sacks this year, and the last time the Seahawks played in a Super Bowl, everyone thought if they were going to win, it was going to be Percy Harvin or Russell Wilson, and it was Malcolm Smith who won MVP. DeMarcus Lawrence, the long shot pick here, 12 years in the league, first year with Seattle, an amazing story which the voters always like, that he bet on himself and started anew with this team. I'm going to go with Mina on this one. Watch for the waves of pass rushers and look at number 0, DeMarcus Lawrence, as your long shot Super Bowl MVP.
All right, so a $10 bet on Lawrence makes you $900.
Come on now.
Just how much of a long shot it may be, but you make a lot of money off of that one. So thanks to Peter. We got more coming your way. And sir, you may want to pay attention here as we get Adam Shepard back in for some top stories. A lot of quarterback storylines, Shefty. Let's start with the latest on Tua Tagovailoa's future.
Well, obviously it doesn't seem like it's going to be in Miami, especially with them bringing in a new head coach in Jeff Hafley, a new general manager in John Eric Sullivan. They'll look to move on from Tua Tagovailoa. The question is how they can do that when there's a $99.1 million dead money cap hit against the salary cap if he winds up being cut. Similar questions in Arizona with Kyler Murray and another new head coach, Mike LaFleur, coming into Arizona. There's no guaranteed money after the $36.8 million in 2026 if they cut him by March 16th. Obviously, people around the league believe that one way or another, Kyler Murray will be moving on. There certainly are teams that will be in need of a quarterback. We'll see if any of them are interested in Tua or Kyler Murray. And, of course, Malik Willis is expected to be the premier quarterback free agent this upcoming offseason with the way he played in Green Bay. Many teams took notice, and he is expected to command a lot of interest around the league. It's almost similar to Justin Fields last year when he became a free agent. There was interest in him. There will be interest in Malik Willis. And it's logical to connect the dots in Miami, where they have the former Packers defensive coordinator and the former Packers front office executive as the GM. Malik Willis, a free agent. We'll see what happens there.
Okay, we are all going to talk about this in a second. But first, let's hear what GM Brian Gutekunst said about Malik Willis's future.
We'd love to have Malik back, but at the same time, to be realistic, I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities to maybe play more than he would here, so we'll see where that goes.
RC, where does Willis fit best in your mind?
Well, I'm about to just throw this out there because I want it. Pittsburgh.
Oh.
Pittsburgh, if you need a new quarterback, I would go get him. But obviously, I know it's going to be connected to Miami. But you also look at somewhere like Arizona. If you are going to unload Kyler Murray or get him off of the roster, obviously Mike LaFleur would have a knowledge of him after playing for his brother Matt in Green Bay. But also, if you're the Miami Dolphins, how can you get this to work out for you? How can you get Malik Willis inside of your building? We've seen his passing. We've seen him become a better passer. We know what type of athleticism he has. He's going to garner a good wage on the market, but he's not going to get top billing. Is there a way you can work it out contractually to get you what, in my opinion, could be a franchise starter now that he's developed?
Pittsburgh is my favorite destination for him, for both the team. I think given their timeline, this is a team that should still compete. It's got a good defense. There's still good players. And the division feels a little bit more open. And then for Malik Willis, I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, I've always been a fan of his, going back to obviously his draft, as y'all remember. But watching him in Green Bay, you've seen growth in areas that I think translate really well to the Steelers. He's obviously got a cannon. He's an incredible dual-threat quarterback. I think he is best with a strong run game, which of course he will add to so that he can get one-on-ones outside. And oh, by the way, they got a guy named DK Metcalf who's an amazing perimeter threat. So it just, to me, Dan, blends perfectly with his skill set.
Yeah, I think Malik Willis is going to get $40 to $50 million in free agency. I truly believe
a year.
No, I think over 2 years.
2 years.
You know,
right, that's like what Justin Fields got.
Yeah, something very similar to that. I would give you 5 teams. Number 1, Pittsburgh. Completely agree that would be the best option. 2, Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to have to be in play for quarterback. Arizona and Miami. And then I also say Minnesota. If I was Kevin O'Connell, I'm sitting there going, okay, if Mac Jones trade doesn't come out, I think there's 5 teams that you sit there and say have giant question marks. I don't know how Miami works it out financially.
If Minnesota goes after Malik Willis, what are you telling him? Are you telling him you will be the starter? Because we just heard Brian Gutekunst say he's going to want to be somewhere where he can play more.
Right.
Yeah.
And if he goes to Minnesota, he's not going to be the starter there.
Yeah.
Right.
Not going to start out being the starter. He may wind up being the starter, whereas in the other places, he could sign on and be the starter. You brought up Mac Jones. He's not getting traded.
Yeah.
Oh, just
that's not going to happen.
Full stop. There's no
happening.
amount that would. I mean, there obviously is
not going to happen.
Okay.
Wow.
That's a bummer.
So you're telling me if Atlanta calls San Francisco and goes, we'll give you a second-round pick?
Listen, anything's always possible. There are no absolutes.
Yeah.
But it would take
okay, so even more for Malik Willis.
Willis now becomes more important.
Yeah,
he's
because
the guy.
if Mac Jones isn't available,
then
Daniel Jones most likely going back to Indy. Yeah. There's 5 teams at a minimum right there that are in need of a starting
and the big thing about Pittsburgh, and I said it jokingly because that's obviously where I want him to go, is they talk to me so much, and we had conversations about Mike McCarthy is his development of young quarterbacks, his success with quarterbacks. It didn't seem like this was an Aaron Rodgers plea in order to get Mike McCarthy. And so Malik Willis, I believe, could be perfect for that transition from where this team was under Mike Tomlin to a brand new start with Mike McCarthy.
It's a top 5 run game with Malik Willis in Pittsburgh. I firmly believe that. Already top 10. You throw him into the mix with an ascendant offensive line.
I think it changes your perspective of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, 100%.
We don't know exactly what Malik would become as a true starting quarterback over the course of the season, but given Mike McCarthy's track record of offensive football and what this young man is proven to be, at least in a short period of time, it makes me look at Pittsburgh differently.
Yeah.
You guys brought it up. DK Metcalf, too. Like, you've got some weapons on that
Arizona?
offense.
Don't forget LaFleur's attachment to his brother, Arizona.
That's interesting. Oh, all right. Read the tea leaves, people. Maybe